whatever brought you here and you're hearing these words, that you think about what's going on in your life, because although we're at the National Sheriff Association, this talk is going to relate to you personally. So wherever you are, whatever you have going on back home, whatever text messages that you answered today, whatever phone calls you got from your family, this message will apply. My name is Chris Swanson. I'm the sheriff in Genesee County, which is in Flint, Michigan. I got some friends here, my sheriff from Detroit, Sheriff Washington, Wayne County, Mike Jafer, who's on the phone, sheriff from Houston, other sheriffs, John L. But I want to talk to you about a triathlon. It's called the Ironman. And the Ironman triathlon is 2.4 miles in the water, 112 on a bike, and then a 26.2 marathon. It's 140.6 miles. You see it on ESPN. The championship is in Hawaii. In 2006, working the road, I get a phone call from a guy named Al Jansen. He's an ER physician. He said, I got to show you something. Come by my office. And I drove there that afternoon, and what I saw changed my life forever. He showed me on his desk his medal. He showed me pictures. He showed me his bib. He had just completed the 2005 Florida Ironman. And he said something to me as a physician. He said, you know, Chris, I can give any drug on the planet, but nothing gave me the feeling of hearing my name crossing the finish line saying, Al Jansen, you are an Ironman. And he planted a seed, because I wasn't an athlete. I wasn't a competitor at the time. A year later, I made a decision. I said, you know, I'm going to sign up for the Ironman. I've never done it. I've never ran that distance or cycled, but I'm going to do it because I know that if you push your mind, the body will follow. Whatever you got going on, if you train and you mentally push your mind, your body will follow. Well, that Ironman was November 2nd, 2007. I remember standing there on the beach in Florida, Panama City, and I remember looking at the Gulf of Mexico and seeing cones and buoys and thinking, we got to do a double loop, then get out and jump on a saddle for 112 miles, and then get done around 4:30 and run a marathon. And I knew that I was ready mentally. And there was a thought that came in my mind that I used for the next 4 Ironmans that I completed. And that is, whatever you put your mind to, finish or die trying. I put my mind to it because I know that when it comes to me being a husband, I'm going to be a great husband or I'm going to die trying. For a dad, for a sheriff, for a friend, it doesn't matter. When you put your mind to something, that's what you stay focused on. And you don't leave yourself an out. Well, it was until the 4th Ironman, it was Madison, Wisconsin. I did Florida, Louisville, Florida, Madison. It was in Madison that I learned great tests of the body. I figured I've done 3 Ironmans already. This is going to be something I can get used to. But what I didn't expect is the terrain in Madison, Wisconsin is much different than what I expected and what I trained for. Massive hills. And I realized that there has to be something there. And when I finished the Florida Ironman at 9:11 at night, starting at 7 a.m., and at 9:11 in Kentucky, I was still on the run. But at 9:11 in Madison, I was just starting the run. My wheels of training fell off. I knew that I had to finish by midnight, and I wasn't focused on doing anything but finishing. But I knew that with these obstacles in my way, that I was going to learn some great lessons, and that's exactly what happened. At 11:45, 15 minutes before cutoff, I finished my 4th Ironman. But here's the thing that I learned. Every step, every pedal, I said, what got me to where I'm at? How do you finish when you know that you want to quit? When I finished the Wisconsin Ironman, it embedded into me 5 principles that help me as a sheriff, that will help you no matter where you are. And that is this. Number 1, I realized as an Ironman, big fat vision. It's called BFV. When you want to do something big, cast a big vision. When I told people that I wanted to be an Ironman, they said, what? I don't need to convince them. I convinced myself. I knew that if I could do that, if I set my mind that that vision would drive me every day, So I watched videos. I talked to people who competed. I listened to best practices. I saw the vision. I knew the day I was going to be there. I knew the location. Let me just say this. Whatever you put your mind to, whatever you tell your kids to do, you cast a vision. Be specific. Let them know what the sand feels like. Let them know what the campus looks like. Whatever that business is, whatever your election looks like, whatever you want to do, cast a vision, see it, smell it, taste it. Principle number 1. Number 2, I told people I was running an Ironman. Because when you put it out publicly, it now solidifies it. You can't backtrack it. So when you tell somebody, you take an oath of an office, you do that publicly. Why? Because you're telling people what you're standing for. When you stand in front of your spouse and you give a vow in front of friends and family, you're doing that because you're publicly declaring. Let me just tell you this. You want big fat vision to come to reality? Tell as many people what you're doing, because now you're held accountable. When I told people I was doing things that seemed impossible, I not only was encouraged, but what I found is it brought them along with me. When you inspire people, you breathe life into them. And when they see that life in you, they too will be inspired. So sheriffs and business owners out there, you have a great position to inspire people. You have great ability and influence to breathe life into people, not just inmates or not just staff, but your community. Cast a big vision. Tell people where you're going. Tell people how you're going to get there. Number 3, every time you succeed. Now, an Ironman has multiple spots. In the swim with 2.4, it's a double loop, so you swim to 1.2, getting out, swimming again. I didn't think about the run when I was in my second lap of swimming. I thought, I just finished my first 1.2 in the ocean. Now I just got to do it again. When I got on the bike, I didn't think about the run. I literally just blasted my wheels to the next aid station. And if I did that 112 times, I would finish the bike. I didn't think about the run. When I started at the end, I said, I'm just going to run to the next aid station. I do that 26 times, bam, I'm an Ironman. So when you do something with big vision, you tell somebody, break it down in little steps. And when you do that, celebrate your victories. Celebrate them. See, we sometimes in business or in great success in your positions, we think it's a little bit pretentious to tell people what you're doing. I've said it before and I'll say it again. If we're going to change the country, sheriffs can do it. And if we're going to do this, we got to tell our own story. That's why you got to use your own social media. You've got to use your voice to tell people what you're doing. Don't always be caught in the back corner when you do something or something happens in your agency and you're defending it. Be out front. Tell the story. Tell people how good your agency is. Tell people how good the community is. Celebrate your little victories. I remember the first Ironman, I learned this lesson. It's a double 56-mile loop on a bike, okay? And when you're on a bike strapped in for an Ironman at 112 miles, each leg is turning 35,000 times. So you're talking 70,000 rotations. That can mess with your head, but I knew this. At mile 56, taped on my handlebars was a bag of Skittles. And I looked at them for 56 miles. And I knew that at 56.1, I could have my Skittles. And at 56.1, I grabbed them Skittles and I celebrated. I hooted and hollered. I didn't care what people next to me thought. I just knew that I completed the first loop of the bike. And I just set these little rewards. So tell your stories. Tell the stories of your kids, your families. Tell them what's happening in your life. Don't always wait to defend the things that you know are going to happen. Principle number 4. When you succeed, you prove your enemies wrong. You prove the people that are critics of your ability wrong. I can tell you right now, wherever you are, all the businesses, there are competitors that want you to fail. There are people within your company that don't want to see the next product line. There are people in your administration that don't believe the direction that you're going is the right direction. Well, if that was the case, then they would be at the top, not you. Our job as executives is to lead the way and to prove our critics wrong with a good heart by our results. So every time my body said quit, every time my ankles or my back said I hurt, I knew that there was enemies in the back that wanted me to be DQ'd. They wanted me to quit. They wanted me not to finish, and I wasn't going to give them satisfaction. Remember this, not to be arrogant, sheriffs, not to be arrogant that's watching this. The best revenge is results. prove people wrong by getting it done. Principle number 5 is the one that makes the most sense to me because I lived it. Ironman number 1, 2, and 3. All 3 of them, I ended up in the emergency room right after the finish line. Dehydrated, hypoglycemic, barely alive. Ironman number 4 was different. I knew I hadn't trained, as I said before. And when I started the run, I told my wife, Jamie, I said, baby, this is going to be a long night. I normally start the run between 4 and 4:30. This was almost 6 o'clock, and I knew I had 26.2 miles to go. And my wife said, listen, I'm with you. Just keep doing what you're doing. You've trained for this. She planted a seed. And as I was running that loop, running through the university, through the football field, way out 13 miles coming back, it was that second loop that my body started shutting down. No joke. You lose 15 to 18,000 calories on an Ironman. By the time you're running, you've been up since 3 o'clock in the morning. You start with the cannon at 7. You're exhausted. You want to quit. Your body is peeing brown. You can't even function, but you keep pushing. At the second loop, I'm sitting on the side. I'm thinking to myself, I got to do this. I got to do this. Jamie comes up to me. She says, listen, you know you can do this. You tell the boys, finish or die trying. I get up. My buddy Casey's there. And I start this dead man shuffle to do another loop. I just came from the loop. I know it's expected. And I got to get it done before midnight. But I'm going to tell you this. 500 yards from taking that second loop, I hear these little feet behind me. And I look. And my wife, who has never run more than 3 miles in her life, ran the 13.1 with me right by my side. Principle number 5, you cannot succeed alone. When you cast a big vision, when you do the things that you know most people run from, when you tell the world what you're doing, when you break it down and celebrate victories, and you prove your enemies wrong, you cannot do it alone. Nobody here got here without somebody helping them to the top, standing on the shoulders of giants. Maybe they were moms and dads. Maybe they were friends. Maybe they're alive. Maybe they're dead. Maybe you and I need to call somebody today and just give a thank you. Maybe we just need to call and say, I don't think I've really reminded you how much you meant to me back then on this moment. Because when we do things together, there's nothing we can't do. And that's not a cliche. Because I finished that Ironman, and I walked to the finish line, and my wife was with me, so I know it for sure. I'm living proof. Just like how I became sheriff. Just like how you became who you are. You knew where you wanted to go. You told people. You did the work. You knew there were people that didn't want it, and you didn't do it alone. Let me tell you what just happened. I ignited you. The words that I just gave to you ignited me. Because when you ignite somebody, you stir up a fire inside. And don't worry about how many years of service you have, how old you are. It doesn't matter. If you're alive, you still got a lot of tread on the tire to do some amazing work for people that need you. And you need to be at your best. There are people that are counting on you. There are people in businesses that families rely on good decisions. There's communities in the millions that are represented here that need the best sheriff. There's a reason why we can do anything, because we're the most elected, trusted official in the country. Sheriffs know people. We're the people's guardian. To the sheriffs, that's our Iron Man. You're going to leave one day and someone's going to take your spot. What did we leave behind? Whose life did we touch? Whose inmate's family did we make an impact? What returning citizen did we convince never to come back? What classes did we teach? Ladies and gentlemen, that's why Ignite works. Inmate growth naturally and intentionally through education. Education's more than GEDs and diplomas. It's having inmates watching deputies and deputies watching inmates and watching them both be inspired to do things different, to provide value to them and have value returned. If we as a society really want to make a difference between the white and black community, between race relations, police relations, community relations, it starts with the populations that nobody wants to talk about. And I'm not talking about not protecting. We all know to bear the sword, slay the dragon. But there's a time and a place for that. Just like there's a time and a place to serve, and there's a time and a place to unify. Our new discipline over the last 2 years has been demanded by the public. They want the police to fix it. And as my friend John L. Allen says, those closest to the problems have the solutions. So this is our Iron Man. This is it at the NSA. That the NSA has teamed up with Verizon to change the way we do business in jails, to change the culture of the millions of people that are in jails today, where 90% of them go back into the neighborhoods and only 10% go to prison. That's been the stopgap that our country has forgotten. How do we keep them from ever coming back to fill the workforce, to fill the trades, to build families, to not create domestic violence situations and more victims? When people have value, they don't make bad decisions as much as they do when they feel like they got nothing. It's our job. It's our time. This is our moment. If you have any desire to understand or to think, maybe Ignite works for me, maybe in Houston it can change the city. I don't have the only answer, but we do have an answer, and it's education in the jail. That's why we're here. And if Ignite has ignited you and you got a vision, let's run this Ironman together. My name is Chris Swanson, Flint, Michigan. Thank you for stopping by.